Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ratchet and Kit. So we are now back in the creepy underwater derelict facility instead of the clean, proper Emperor one.
We're
So
playing Subnautica now. Uh, I really want to
That's the
play.
submarine game, right?
Yeah, it's a survival crafting exploration Metroid-like on a water-covered planet where you do explore above ground and inside like giant submarines and other facilities, but it's for the most part you're marooned on this planet and trying to survive and figure out what's going on, you know, and
Yeah.
collecting data
Oh,
from
so it's
other
not a
people who were.
it's not a multiplayer game. Uh,
I don't
for
think
some
so.
yeah, for weird because for whatever reason, I always thought it was a multiplayer game, but maybe that's just me not paying attention.
I don't know
Um,
if there's a multiplayer component, but the stream that I did editing work for was entirely single player.
okay, okay, that's cool. In any case, underwater planets like these often do have the prettiest graphics, so that's always really nice.
Yeah.
Now, the there's a better game that also looks like this, but the level that I'm thinking about in this derelict version of the lab specifically is that lab level from Sonic 06 towards the end of the game. And I yeah, but the thing is that like there's like a good level though, like a good game that also has this, I guess, kind of Metroid fusion a little bit. Maybe, not really. Although I do love the water level in Metroid Fusion. Metroid Fusion, actually, we were talking about this a part or two ago. With water levels, I think Metroid Fusion does water great because you're not really forced to do a lot of water stuff for most of the game. There's only one section with an extremely large amount of water, and when you do get to that point, you're incentivized to stay out of it, and you're only ever in it for a couple of seconds.
Well,
and it's only until the very end of the game where you're in a water a lot, and then at that point, like you then get the immediate gratification of the gravity suit and being able to do whatever you want in the water, which I just think is really neat.
In a Metroid style game, the presence of water is mostly like one of the game's many ways of hindering your progression until you've achieved a certain thing that unhinders your progression.
Yeah, pretty much.
Something that you can engage with before achieving that, but you're not necessarily encouraged to. So it's less frustrating and more, ooh, that's a place that I'm going to be going later. I wonder what's over there, kind of thing.
That makes a good amount of sense.
What the hell are these things?
The brain in the jar.
Uh,
They kind of look like the one you just blew up. Kind of looked like Crane from
They look like giant
Turtles.
They look like giant, squishy, mutated pieces of honeycomb cereal.
Oh, I never got to eat the honeycomb cereal growing up. My
was
my
all
parents
right.
parents never let me get any of the good cereal. Shake my head.
It was all right. I mean, those kind of cereals, they have a certain once in a while kind of quality. Like, I wouldn't want to eat it every day, but it is a treat when you do get to eat it.
I need variety. I eat different cereal. Like basically, like I'll never get the same box twice in a row.
I mean, for something like the frickin' waffle cereal that tastes like waffles with syrup.
Wait,
Like,
what?
yeah, there's one of those. I forget
When
what
did this become a thing?
when I was a kid. Yeah, this was when I was a kid, and it's
I don't remember that.
It's a cereal that's supposed to taste like breakfast waffles with maple syrup and all. So, like, despite the fact that I could legitimately eat actual waffles every day, I always felt like the the waffle cereal is the kind of thing that I love to eat every once in a while, but could not eat 2 days in a row for the life of me. And it's such a weird feeling because it's made to taste like something you would eat every day, you know?
Well, that's I think the other thing. I don't think that I would eat waffles every day if I had the option to. Now I'll clarify that. Like, sure, I'd start off eating waffles every day because every kid with a shiny new toy will always want to do that. And, you know, much like how a 6-year-old, if you told them they could have ice cream for breakfast, they will absolutely eat ice cream for breakfast every day.
Eventually, it just wears out its welcome, though.
Yeah, and then you realize, no, I shouldn't actually do that, and you'll do something else. So yeah, so like, I think waffles are too they're too heavy and they take too long to make is the thing.
The other thing is that we're just designed not to want to eat the same thing over and over. If we're exposed to the same taste over and over, our bodies eventually like edge us away from eating more of it. This is it's obviously to encourage us to balance our diets more, but it also applies to stuff like binge eating. If you want to complete a food challenge that is extra big, for example, one way to trick your body into thinking it can fit more food than it wants to is to just change the flavor with something else. Orange juice is a popular choice for that, although that just makes that the idea of doing that just kind of makes me nauseous, to be honest.
Of drinking orange juice, or so that you just have like a difference. So wait, are you talking about just like taking bites of orange juice every now and again, or are you
the orange juice changes the taste in your mouth so that your body reacts as if you're eating a greater variety of stuff than you are. And by doing that, you can trick your body into maintaining its appetite longer. It's kind of a life hack that people use to get through food eating challenges. There are other things that you need to do as well, but it's kind of making me sick just to think too much about it.
I was never particularly good at any of those kinds of things. Like I'll eat a lot if I'm just not feeling particularly smart that day, but I always regret it, and I've never had the stamina to eat like the biggest a huge pizza and the side of cheesy bread, no matter how much I might want to.
Well, part of it is just that your body actually needs to get used to certain amounts of food and certain amounts of certain types of food. Like, if you haven't had anything fatty in a while, eating even a little bit of fried chicken is probably going to knock you out, which is why, like, a lot of diets nowadays actually suggest taking a day off from your diet, like, once a week so that you can keep yourself used to eating fattier foods. It's, the human body is complicated, basically.
It's also not very good at keeping itself alive.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, humans are dumb.
It's more that humans are extremely smart, but in order to evolve that smartness, we had to make sacrifices in other areas, which is why we have to learn a lot of things that other animals just know.
I still think that, like, we've had some odd billion years of evolution, and our species still couldn't find a better way to give birth. Just seems kind of silly to me personally.
It's because of our brains that giving birth is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, because they're too big. That's the biggest problem, is that the head's too big to fit out.
Yeah. So we have to pop out with underdeveloped brains that need to keep developing after we're out, and we need to learn things that should be hardwired into our brains but aren't, because our brains popped out underdeveloped and we didn't have time to hardwire quite as much stuff as other animals do. And that's partly true for other semi-intelligent animals as well, but it's especially true for us. So we're stupid because we're too smart.
Wow.
Hey, Wheatley, how you doing?
Oh, it also looks like the robot from the PlayStation VR thing that people talk about a lot.
This just straight up looks like we're watching a Subnautica stream in game. This is like Subnautica is really like neat in that there's a lot of undersea flora and fauna to navigate. And
So now we have a big scary monster chasing us.
it's the kind of thing where different parts of the game have their own ecosystem, you know? It makes exploration interesting if you're into that sort of thing.
The game does seem really cool, yeah.
Now,
Oh, and they're doing the whole flashing. Honestly, this level is really cool for atmosphere, I have to say. Like, I don't know, something about just, like, it being dark so much does a lot for making it look cool.
I think this is kind of the we can do ray tracing now tech showcase level.
What does ray tracing do? Because
It's basically a graphic. It's a graphics measure to basically have light bounce, refract, etc. naturally, rather than trying to kind of hard code a light source for everywhere you want.
Oh, I see. So
Basically, it's a process where theoretically you can drop anything that produces light, and anything around it will react naturally to as if the light was actually there.
Oh, I see. So it's trying to. I can see the benefit in that because not only does it save a lot of development work once you get the technology to a good enough point, because
the thing is,
like, you don't have to code all of the lighting; it just does itself. But also, if you do get the automation to work well, it would probably look a lot more natural than having to do everything by hand.
the thing is, lighting and shadows and all of that stuff are traditionally one of the more resource-intensive aspects of graphical imagery, which is why in previous console generations, you generally only see it in like games that were very condensed. So there's less other stuff the resources needed to work on, or games that or you just wouldn't see it at all, and they'd use some inferior replacement for it, like the frickin' Reflections in Resident Evil 2 remake.
Oh man, I love old video game reflections where it's just they rendered the character again on the other side.
When I say reflections, I'm talking about like the reflective effect on floors and stuff in certain areas that always looked a bit weird because the effect they used for it was kind of low res. It was supposed to give the impression that light from the area was shining on a reflective surface on the wall. Like, you'd see a lot of it in the underground lab where everything was sleek and metal and iPhone shiny. But it had this kind of blurry, not very nice to look at quality to it that sort of stuck out, to be honest, because the rest of the game was so beautiful.
Are you talking? We said Resident Evil remake. I assume you're talking about the first game, right?
I'm talking about Resident Evil 2 remake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So something fairly recent. And, you know, something that hasn't aged bad graphically, but has, you know, a bit of less refined graphical jank going on somewhere.
I mean, I don't remember the game looking bad at all. Although it's weird to think that game's like 3 or 4 years old by this point. Like that's just God. We're old. Time is an illusion.
Let's see. The Wii U is 10 years old.
Yeah,
so is the PS4, I think.
Nobody cares about that one. So, you know, that's easy.
Well, it is still the best place to play Metroid games.
Technically speaking, yes.
I mean, you'll want to Switch for Metroid Dread, but everything else is on the Wii U. So
Yeah, I think every other Metroid game is playable on the Wii U in some fashion.
I think the only one you won't get on the Wii U is like OG Metroid 2, which is on 3DS instead.
Yeah, but then again, there's not much reason to play that one, so...
Why am I specifying just OG Metroid 2? The remake is on 3DS as well, yeah. But like all the other Metroid games. Oh, geez.
I am stuck.
Oh, no.
I have somehow gotten stuck on foliage.
Oh, no. Oh no.
Whoops.
There's so much
The
time.
thing is, you're supposed to be walking on like these little hexagonal magnetic little platform things that lead you the way, so you're not supposed to go anywhere that's not really on there. And I guess I got stuck somewhere.
So much time has passed between you recording this footage, us recording this, and this going live that they probably fixed that bug already. I wouldn't doubt it.
I don't know how update happy have they been with this game.
About as much as any other game like this.
And there's no
Is it-
plans for like DLC or anything, I'm assuming, right?
No, Insomniac's too busy making 2 other games.
Good point, well made.
I don't even know what you would do for DLC for a Ratchet game like this.
Another planet, like.
But
I don't know.
the story completely finishes by the time we're done.
You can just set it like in between.
I mean, given that this game has, planet-to-planet adventure exploration, they could just do an expansion pack that becomes available at a certain point in the game, But
Yeah, you could just have another planet like set in, like, oh, this takes place in the story before the end of the game. They'll do a lot of that for certain DLC type things. But yeah, I don't think this isn't really the type of game where you could do a lot of DLC, because I'm assuming there's not really a post game in this.
No, there isn't. You beat the final boss and that's it.
at least we're kind of past that era of DLC where developers expected to be able to get away with low production values and all their additional DLC stuff, so you'd get stuff like fucking Castlevania Lords of Shadow telling all of its cutscenes in slideshow mode for the DLC pack, even though the DLC pack is really plot important because it all explains how Gabriel Belmont became Dracula in the end. Like, in the main game, you'll go through this castle, right? And it's basically Frankenstein's castle, but it's, like, set up so that you can see it becoming Dracula's castle in the end. And I think that's pretty much exactly what ends up happening to it. But there's this little girl vampire involved in that story, right? And the story just kind of passes her by because her story doesn't finish itself in the main game. She's DLC. You get to see what happens to her in the DLC. So,
Wait, so Frankenstein, like a Dr. Frankenstein, is the bad guy in Lords of Shadow?
No. The castle is weird. It's a location that you pass through during one of the game's acts, but it's not tied to the game's main villain, because spoilers, the main villain of Castlevania Lords of Shadow is literally Lucifer. You fight the devil in the end and win.
Yeah.
It's like fucking epic level Dungeons and Dragons bullshit, but okay. So yeah, and then like after the game ends and the main plot's twisted and Gabriel Belmont is in his dark place, you go back and do like these 2 DLC chapters, and one of them is in the castle involving the vampire girl. And the net result is like you get all these really low budget slideshow artwork, comic book style cutscenes to explain a part of the story that's even more important to the main series than everything in the main game. But it's DLC, so it gets all this low budget nonsense attached to it. It's like DMC Devil May Cry's Virgil DLC, only actually like important to the story and not just Virgil having a contextless I'm turning evil storyline. I was really pissed off at Lords of Shadow for doing its DLC this way, but it turned out to be a really common approach around that time because companies thought, it's DLC, we can give it a low budget, and then you'd wind up going through some semi-recycled areas, and the cutscenes would be not cutscenes at all.
Honestly, that's part of why I remember God, fuck, what's that game called? Breath of the Wild's DLC. Part of why I remember that game's DLC being so good.
Well, it kind of stepped it up a little from what the main game had for story, which wasn't
Yeah.
saying much. But, like, it was nice to have more cutscenes in a game that didn't have many of those.
Yeah. But it was at least, like, on par with the production value for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
it kind of actually it harmonizes with the rest of the game, in terms of production and in terms of story, and that's nice to have. It also helps that the gameplay in the DLC is also like really good.
dude, you have no idea how much I wish I played Breath of the Wild so that the DLC was actually happening while I was actually playing the main game.
Oh,
because I had
yeah.
mostly finished my Breath of the Wild playthrough by the time the DLC came out. Like, I had already beaten all the shrines and whatnot. I didn't ever want to get all of the Koroks, so that wasn't the thing I was interested in doing. But the motorcycle is so stupid and cool that, like, I wanted to keep playing the game with a motorcycle.
I played a fair lot. Oh, is that the Parasite Queen from Metroid Prime? It looks like the Parasite Queen from Metroid Prime.
The arena certainly looks the same, I'll tell you that.
Will you?
It is another one of those creatures that was following us in the other dimension because this one fell into this dimension.
Oh.
Because of all the Dimensionator shenanigans. Whoopsie.
Are we creating a time paradox? Uh-oh.
No, it's not the same one. It's a different one.
In any case, I didn't play Breath of the Wild completely. I played a lot of Breath of the Wild when it came out. I actually bought 2 versions of the goddamn game. I got it.
That Wii U one will be worth $1 billion someday, so, you know.
Did they ever release the DLC for the Wii U
Yes.
version? Or was that
Yes, they did.
I'm sure they did.
They released it all, same time as the Switch version. I think I actually bought all the DLC for both versions. I don't remember, though, and I don't have my Wii U, so I can't really check. But the thing is, like, I played a lot of the game when it came out, but it's a big open world game, so like with most big open world games that I play, I eventually got sidetracked and didn't finish it. I didn't get around to playing it through to completion until this past year. Around the time I was doing the modded Linkle streams is when I finished it. And I had all the DLC at that point, and it fits in really well with the natural flow of the game. Like, like, I've heard people say, hey, if you've got the DLC, horses don't matter because you've got the motorcycle. No, you have to go through all kinds of shit to get that motorcycle. You have to complete all 4 Divine Beasts, and then you have to do all the DLC quests after that. So, in the natural state of the game, you're not getting the motorcycle until the very end anyway. Or at least close enough to it that you know, it doesn't make horses irrelevant. But, like, I just, like, I feel like the DLC kind of patches a bit of a hole in the original game, not just narratively, but like mechanically, because it adds a 5th dungeon to the game to get the motorcycle, you know?
I do appreciate that. One thing I think I did like the shrines, but I do feel like the game did miss a little bit of the dungeons, and something a little bit longer I think would have been nice for the game as well.
Yeah, I kind of see that. I feel like other open world games like Skyrim and Oblivion and they tend to have dungeons
I
that
barely survived that.
they tend to have dungeons that you can just find and explore, and when you do find one, they sprawl on for like half an hour, and you're not even there for like a real objective. One of the first things you see after getting out of the dungeon in Oblivion, after getting out of the prison in Oblivion at the start, is across the lake, there's just this ruin outside the Imperial City. It glows slightly because it's like Iliad or something, and there's a camp of bandits just outside the place, and you know they attack you on sight, so you kill them. It's Oblivion. The roleplay is not particularly heavy, but like as you explore this dungeon, like the only story significance the dungeon has is that another group of spelunking nobodies went in before you, had a bunch of infighting or whatever, and what the hell?
They're a thing.
Oh. Okay, that's kind of wholesome. Imagine if Nemesis from Resident Evil met female Nemesis, or male Nemesis, I'm not going to judge, and they just, had a happy ending instead of getting blown to shit by Jill at the end. It's kind of like this.
Did they ever make another Nemesis? Like in,
Well, I mean, there's always another stalker tyrant type villain. So, yeah, there's Ustanok in Resident Evil 6, who was a callback to Nemesis, only infinitely stupider. And I don't know. I don't know. I guess, like, there's probably something in Resident Evil 6 that I'm not 6, 8 that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head that could possibly apply.
yeah, but I mean, like,
Another version of the same bioweapon, you mean?
yeah, because, like, in Resident Evil 8, forgive me if I'm wrong, but, like, the Umbrella didn't really have anything to do with,
No.
with any of the crap that was going
The
on
Nemesis bioweapon is interesting lore-wise because it's kind of the missing link between the Parasites of 4 and the virus stuff from the original games, because it's basically a virus-born tyrant that's had a parasite inserted into it, which they didn't really do anything with in the original Resident Evil 3, but some of the zombies develop Las Plagas-like head sprouts in the remake, so I guess that's retroactively making it more significant.
It's okay. Whenever they inevitably do the Resident Evil 4 remake, which they're still saying they're gonna do, we'll find out. I'm sure they won't retcon anything.